Hello and welcome back to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we take a cinema legend, take 5 of their film to hide their excellence and range. My name is Austin Luger.
My name is Eric Martindale.
And right now we're not doing 5, we're doing 10, because this is the Let's Take 5, Let's Take 10, Let's Take 5 wrap-up.
That's right.
As we are ending the podcast with 10 of the greatest films ever made that we never covered on our 120 episode run before that.
Indeed.
Previously we have covered Casablanca. Shit. What else do we do? 12 Working Men. What was the second one?
You know I never remember this stuff, Austin. We did Casablanca.
Rear Window.
Yes.
Yeah.
Casablanca,
Rear Window. We have a bunch of come up on the pipeline that I'm very excited about. But today we're discussing The Seventh Seal, Ingmar Bergman's 1957 movie that is definitely his most referenced film in pop culture, especially here in America. It is the tale of a knight who returned from the Crusades, and on the beach when he returns, there stands Death, who is ready for him, and he stalls his own demise by challenging Death to a game of chess. While that happens, we're seeing some other characters, this kind of traveling troupe, as they are moving their way through the Middle Ages of plague and people burning witches and lots of unpleasant stuff. And yet, this is actually nowhere close to the most depressing Ingmar Bergman film. It's actually somewhat...
It's comedic.
Yeah, it is charming. It has levity as well of its, demise. I mean, the morbid elements going on, and it is incredible. I mean, sorry, no, it's a bad movie. That's our bit for the whole 10.
No, it is incredible. This time going through it again and seeing the way it sort of sets up Death as a character, and then the way the additional characters are added on. I mean, the Knight does return from the Crusades. Also, his Squire does. The Squire has probably got more lines in the movie than the Knight does.
Mm-hmm.
It has actually very little. It's played by Max von Sydow, by the way.
Still alive.
Second Exorcist reference now, because Lee J. Cobb and 12 Angry Men was also in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it reminds me the way it sort of all comes together as it's very Shakespearean.
Mm-hmm.
The characters are a lot of these characters are archetypes from a very specific caste system. You're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. So we got the acting troops, we got the woodsman worker, we got the wife that's kind of a floozy. Mm-hmm. You have I said the knight, and then you have the religious cast that is there as well, and then they all go in the woods. So you have that extra Shakespeare type thing too, and they all have, and there's some comedy there mixed in with the woods, and a lot of it comes through a sexual thing because there's different men that desire the woodsman's sort of wife, and that all played so Shakespearean to me, and I mean this time more than the other times.
It's funny because we both now own the ridiculous Criterion Ingmar Bergman thing. Yeah. I was going through it. In order. They do a fun thing that's not chronological, but it's kind of a curated sense in that. So I watched Smiles of a Summer Night the other month, and that is also very Shakespearean. That is more of a farce, perhaps closer to like Oscar Wilde than Shakespeare, but it has those elements of you get the misunderstandings, put them in a small group, in that case a mansion, in this case the woods, and let them play out in a way that is... that one's just very silly and fun. This will always have death looming over it.
Yeah, so that is a thing about the film, is that death exists as this sort of overarching thing, because the chess game takes place. It's not like in one sitting they play chess whether he can keep his soul or not and stay alive. The chess game is played throughout the course of the entire movie. So you get an idea that they play a couple rounds and then he continues on, and that's sort of how it works. Another thing that hit me more in this film, well, actually, it's something I've thought about in the subsequent viewings of the recent ones, is that Death actually cheats at the game. Because there's a point where you have Max von Sydow, who plays this character named Antonius Black, and he's going to confession his first time from coming back from the Crusades, and rather than talking about confession, he starts talking about how he's playing chess game with Death, and how Death is a skillful tactician. I mean, these are the allegory is very on the nose in these segments, and then how Death is actually posing as the priest in the confession, and he starts to reveal strategy to him. And he says that I'm going to take him with a combination of knight and bishop. Well, again, on the nose reference to the Crusades, right? So you had knights being led by bishops to war, which are two chess pieces that do work very well and together if they're pushing up the board. And Death turns around. It's like, oh yeah, okay, now I saw how you're going to move on your pieces. And he's like, you cheated me. He's like, I'm Death. Like, come on.
That moment made me think about the film in a different kind of way from that on out, because it's about the idea of what is fair and what is not. And the night begins of saying, like, I am not ready to die. I'm going to stall for the chess game. That is essentially unfair.
Yeah.
To try to defeat Death is actually the only thing that is not fair and balanced. As you kind of keep looking around, of watching, terrible things happen. This young girl being burned, and even sillier deaths of, the tree coming down. It has the illusion that none of this is right, that there is no God, and life is random and suffering. And perhaps it is. Yeah.
Well, Death doesn't even know if there's a God either.
Yeah, Death goes, this isn't my job, so I'm going to do it. Your time is up. And there's something about, I've not fully cracked this yet, about those willing to see the matrix in the way, those who have the ability to see kind of what is going on, those who actually can see Death. And then of course you have this guy in the acting troupe who keeps seeing these visions of miracles, and he sees Death, and he sees those dancing with Death. There is something about being at peace with the randomness that lets people pass over in a clearer sense. Those who kind of keep insisting and being stubborn that this is impossible to have anything about that are the ones who just keep suffering. Does this make any sense?
No, it does. It does in a way, but it reminds me of something you said to me once. I don't even remember specifically what you were talking about, but you at least got me thinking about it. I don't know if you had worded it this way, but this is the way I interpreted it, and it sort of applies here, is that Death is not something that's ever really frightened you, and not really me, in the sense that, well, because it's an easy thing to say when you're not dying, but never been afraid of things you can't control, right? Like, I think you said that to me much. I don't concern myself with the things that I have absolutely no control over.
Right.
And tops of that list is you're going to die one day. From the moment you were born, you're going to die one day. You have absolutely no control over that. Everyone listening to this podcast is going to die one day. But the two people doing this podcast are going to die one day. And just about, except for Max von Sydow, I was about to say, everyone that worked on this film is dead. So, yeah, and that's something. But the thing is, the reason it's fearful specifically for Antonius Black, bridging that, is that he wants an answer. He wants to know God is real before he dies.
Yeah.
He wants that assurance that God is real before he dies, and Death cannot give him that assurance, because whether God is real or not, you're going to die one day.
Right. And I mean, especially it is so fitting for this to be in the time period that it is.
Where death is everywhere.
He's death everywhere. And even says, because he's returned from the Crusades, he went on a violent mission for the sake of God. And Death says, I've been with you for a long time. Because
I've long been at your side.
Yeah, because he killed a lot of people in the Crusades. His sword is bloody. And he needs to know that it was worth it, because this did take a toll on him. He is a veteran of war. And to not know your cause for it is upsetting to him. Well,
he returns home, too, and his entire home is dead.
Yeah.
Because of the plague. Everyone's gone. So, so there's that. And then he tries to seek comfort from a witch who's being burned at the stake. And the witch offers this to me is the most profound part of the movie, because the witch is about to be burned at the stake. She's being burned at the stake because they call her a devil worshiper, that she's got the power of Satan within her or whatever. And if he can get her to confirm that Satan is real, then that will be enough assurance, because that if there's there's a yin and yang to that situation, one doesn't exist without the other. And she looks at him after the question's asked, and she's like, "Don't you see Satan in me?" And the ironic part is, everyone else can, so why can't you? I'm about to be burned at the stake for this, and you're really asking me this question? And then it just proves it. Subsequently, it eloquently does not confirm or deny the existence of God, while simultaneously perfectly eloquently exhibiting the stupidity it is that they're going to burn this woman at the stake.
Yes.
So people are literally burning me at the stake because there is a God, and you're asking me if there's a God? Like it's so beautifully slam dunked that it may even go over some people's heads. It's how profound. And I'm not saying I'm like so smart to get it, but like I think I didn't really get that until like the third or fourth time I saw the film.
Well, in this movie, and this is something explored through like every single Bergman film, is trying to find meaning in this kind of silence of God. It would be so much easier for people to be at peace with what is going on if there is proof of God's will. And that element of faith is very frightening for some of these characters, because they need just one small moment of proof to justify their fears and their duty of what they're doing in the world. And that's not how faith works. And this leads characters to stall and hide.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
This time was the first time I watched the film where I thought that the actor and his wife got away because he had a vision of death. Did he see Antonius Black playing chess?
Yeah.
I, for whatever reason, never got that before. And it almost seems like, because no one else can see it.
Yeah.
So those visions are almost shown to be 100% true.
Yeah. Death is real.
Yeah, death is real.
And he says he sees, the Virgin Mary at the
right. No, I got that. It was the only time any of those scenes with visions in them had happened with someone else around, or someone else taking part in them.
Yeah.
I feel like Antonius Black's realizing he's beaten there is stalling for time so that they can get away.
Yeah.
So they cheated death.
Yeah.
Because he knocks the pieces over. It's like Death's like, I know exactly where the pieces were, but during that time period, the actors escape.
Yeah. I think that's like why this doesn't feel as bleak as some of the other Bergman films, is because you have the knight coming to a sense of understanding, and it doesn't feel as lonely. That's kind of why the final image of death is with dancing. It is not people in chains being like led to hell or whatever. It is, it's macabre dancing, but it is dancing with death. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, because when I see that, I think that's a pretty horrifying image.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, because like you can, to me it almost looks like, so is this what we're talking about? Is the very end of the film, the actor that got away sees a vision on the top of the hill of the Dance of Death, which is everyone who was with the knight in the castle all holding hands while death is leading them presumably to the afterlife. And it's filmed in such a way that the characters are all in sort of they're all shadowed, they're all silhouettes, and it's from a distance to where you can't make out any actual facial features. You can't even really make out the order of the people in line. You can tell, female and male, but other than that, you can't. And it looks to me like they're the slaves beating the drum on the ship. Like that's what it looks like to me, or rowing with the ship while the guy's beating the drum, which is death carrying the scythe. So that can kind of go.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely.
But we're all slaves to death. Like that's the whole thing. Like,
well, you can embrace it or you can't.
Yeah. The one woman embraces it at the end wholeheartedly.
Oh,
because all her village is dead.
And that performance is chilling. It's a performance is so much she's facing the camera, and her being at peace is so eerie and so upsetting that it is someone who has suffered truly pretty much as much as the knight who went out to the Crusades.
Yeah, I have theories on her. Like, I feel like she's the reason why they all died. Like, So
you
like,
think she poisoned him?
no, I think that she's carrying the plague.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, because what happens is that, well, Antonius Black is dying at the very beginning. We know that because Death visits him.
Mm-hmm.
But when they go to one of the towns along the way, she's about to be assaulted and maybe raped by some bandit.
Mm-hmm.
The bandit's ass is kicked by the squire. Then she joins their group.
Mm-hmm.
You run into the bandit later, and then you run into him a third time, and he's dying of the plague in the woods. And they're saying no one go near him because he's dying. Well, that's the same guy that was in the beginning with her.
Interesting.
So, because like one question I always had in this film is, why do they all die?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just Antonius Black? Because again, it's never explicitly said why he's dying or why death came from him. It can be assumed it's like a shipwreck or something because he's found on the shore.
It's funny. I so rarely think about the physical reason why they're dying. I always took them all dying at the end. It was like a teapot boil over. Like you've held death back so long. Now you're just going to be like flooded with death.
Yeah. But see, I don't get death as working that way. Like in this film.
Yeah.
So
what I'll think like it's me seeing how Bergman is working, not how death as a character is working.
Like to me, when he death at one point saws a tree down and a guy dies.
Yeah.
You know, because he's in the top of the tree, quite comically. To me, death didn't really saw the tree down. The tree was weakened, and it was going to fall no matter what.
Yeah.
Like,
his
death didn't decide to kill this guy.
No, death in this never seems to be a decision maker.
Yeah.
He's following through with things. And, yeah, because, like, even, like, the night at the beginning, it almost in, like, a Frodo at the end of Return of the King. Like, you know it's your time, right? Yeah. It's time to go into the West for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never even considered the fact that like
there might be a reason.
It's like you get it, right?
Yeah, I felt like they might have died of plague because of her.
Oh, that makes complete sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Because why specifically show that bandit dying in the plague later? Mm-hmm. I mean, that could have been anybody, and it's a really horrifying. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's like she's gonna go give him water. It's like don't even give him water. You're wasting the water.
Mm-hmm.
This man is dead in hours.
Yeah.
You know, what a horrible time to be alive. Like,
oh, absolutely. Which is why, like, to me, the acting troupe are so important because you are living through a truly horrible, horrible age, and Jesus Christ, we need a laugh.
Yeah.
We need a laugh. We need levity. We need a story that's not about us all dying of boils around us.
Yeah, I mean, and then the scene with the flagellante that walked by, and they're all giving themselves lashings as they come through the crowd. It's like, oh my God.
When you're living through the Black Death, you don't know that this isn't the end of the world.
Yeah,
you don't know this is what's going on.
No, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does. I mean, it makes so much sense. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
I mean, it killed like something like 35% of Europe.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
Like,
it's terrible.
Yeah, unbelievable. And no one was really like immune to it. It killed indiscriminately amongst classes. I mean, a lot of lower classes died, but yes, there were a lot of princes and princesses that died of the plague. I mean, it happened. So it's gross.
It's curious because like not a lot of.
It's always weird when someone gets the plague now because you'll hear about it pop up in the news like. Someone got the plague in Yosemite National Park this year. I mean, they can cure it now, but it's like, oh, that's crazy.
Well, we're always afraid of that, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever we see something that's like, you learn what Ebola is and you go, oh, that's terrible. We need to stop this like tomorrow or the planet's gone. Like we always feel like we're on the brink of something that's so outside of our control, and then we just like die.
History's kind of shown that, you know, when things get overpopulated and oversaturated, usually there's a pandemic that wipes a lot of people out. So,
yeah, that's why
cautionary tale here.
It's such a perfect setting for this movie because I don't think if you had death walking around, you know, a 1950s village, it would have the same impact. Then it would be like more of a murder mystery of who's stabbing who. Death just always being present at a time like this is not shocking. The knight is not shocked to see death here.
No,
he's
long been on his side.
Yes. And man, the guy with death is good.
Yeah. I like these kind of funny.
Yeah, he and to me like when he has that fantastic moment where he's pretending to listen to the confessional, he doesn't like smirk to the camera or like give himself like a fist bump. Like, no, he was always going to win.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it's funny that he just told the strategy, but he was always going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And he just enjoys the idea of playing a game because he doesn't play a lot of games. He just mostly kills people.
He likes chess.
Yeah, he likes chess.
This is everyone's seen this. It's been parodied so many times. You've probably seen more parodies and satires of this than you've seen the movie. I mean, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is literally the plot as a satire.
Yeah,
they play Battleship against
and
each other.
Connect Four and
Connect Four. Yeah,
it was fun because like I just knew this image so much when I was a kid that when I was like looking at foreign films to start for the first time, I go, I have to see this because like it's everything in pop culture.
And I'm sure I mean I know that the idea of this existed before Seventh Seal even did.
Yeah.
So
it's such a movie that I can never get out of my mind, and yet it is one that is so much easier to watch than the other films.
It's really short. We had, well, it's not really short. It's an hour and a half, but we had a movie bracket where we had these movies compete and go against each other, very similar to like a March Madness. I remember Seven Seal made your Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm.
It was eliminated by Seven Samurai.
Was it?
Yep.
It's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
It's a real tough one. And
it wasn't easy. It took long debate.
No, we enjoyed pacing and really discussing that for arguably too long. Everyone else in the room was like, okay, we still
No, this one was when it was just you and I at like 3:00 in the morning.
Oh, I thought
my place.
I can remember.
No, it wasn't the one over here with Keith. Yeah.
Or sometimes
any of the countless
your wife is nearby, very patiently going, okay, I guess they're still doing this.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's it for Seventh Seal. Any final thoughts for you?
No, I mean it's a great movie. I mean, it's one of Bergman's best, maybe his best movie. But, Bergman's so good, someone could come back and say, it wasn't even his best movie that year.
That is wild, because
he did Wild Strawberries.
He had Wild Strawberries that year. And both these were up for the Oscar. And I have to assume they split the vote because Fellini's Nights of Cabiria, which is also incredible, won best foreign film.
I'm pretty sure, just to even add legitimacy to that, if you've heard of Seven Seal and haven't heard of Wild Strawberries or haven't seen Wild Strawberries but seen Seven Seal, I believe Stanley Kubrick, prior to The Godfather, said that Wild Strawberries was the best movie ever made. Mm-hmm. So
it always throws me off.
Guy probably knows what he's talking about.
They say the phrase Wild Strawberries in Seven Seal.
I know.
It always throws me off.
Me too. I always think about it.
Because this is the same year as 12 Angry Men, last week's film, and I had to look it up between recordings. I go, what the hell won Best Picture against all these films? Oh, The Bridge of River Kwai. Mm-hmm. Another masterpiece.
That's fine.
The form.
Mm-hmm.
57. Good year.
Yeah, 57 was a good year.
Good year. We'll be back next week with another masterpiece of the form as we dive back into Westerns with The Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Yeah.
Sergio Leone's end of his trilogy.
Yeah, super excited to rewatch this film. I love the Man with No Name trilogy. Mm-hmm. I understand that Yojimbo and what came first, which is the kickoff for Fistful of Dollars, which becomes Fistful of Dollars More. Fistful of Dollars is the worst of the three. For a few dollars more, if Good, the Bad, and the Ugly didn't exist, which is just like a timeless masterpiece, for a few dollars more, people would talk about that a lot more as being one of the greatest Westerns ever, because it is an incredible.
If I have time, I'm going to try to rewatch that one as well.
You should.
I've seen the first and third many times, so I've only watched For a Few Hours More.
Oh, it's so good. It is so good.
All right. I'm looking forward to that discussion next week. Until then, you can go over to theartamore.com, check out any episode of Let's Take 5, and leave a comment. I'd always love to hear from you. While you're there, check out The Immortals. Every week, myself and 3 others review the 1001 movies, albums, songs, and TV shows one must consume before you die. This week, we reviewed the Buster Keaton silent film, The General, and 3 other things I can't remember off the top of my head. But General, great stuff. Also, check out Ad Absurdum, a podcast where 2 lawyers talk about real-life implications of pop culture. This month, they covered the 1993 comedy Dave, starring Kevin Kline. So check that out. And where can we find you, Eric?
Constant Diversion's my YouTube channel.
Do you have an update on this Chrono Trigger?
Yeah. It just needs it's a 17-minute video. It's 15 minutes of it are done. So it's been like
It could be out now.
it could be. It's possible. I doubt it. I mean, why? I would never. I'm like the George R. R. Martin with this video. Like I would never now put a date on when it's coming.
So the safest thing people do is subscribe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Special thanks to Adam Lord for all the great music he does for this show. Leave us a review on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod. Until next time, I'm Austin.
I'm Eric.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.